Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle. And in this video, we need to talk about how this weekend Blue Beetle comes out and nobody seems to care. That is right, a movie in the DC cinematic universe introducing the latest, greatest character to actually be one of the characters that apparently is going to make it over to James Gunn's universe, has his feature film coming out this weekend. And it's already looking like it's going to be a big flop. So in this video, we got to talk about this idea of superhero movie fatigue, and if that fatigue actually seeps over to the comic collecting market. But before I get into it, if you guys could drop me a like, comment, subscribe if you're enjoying the content, help support the channel doing those things, I'd appreciate it. But let's get into this video here today. Now, of course, if you guys don't know, Blue Beetle, the movie in the DC universe introducing the new character. Apparently this character, is going to be making his way into the James Gunn universe. At least that's what James Gunn has said. But, we've been seeing these DC movies that are sort of the holdover from what I'm going to call the Snyderverse, having a lot of trouble in the box office. Now, here on Rotten Tomatoes, you can already see the critic rating has it at 78%. The audience score jumping off to 94%. So there's already, sort of positive ratings going on for this movie. But if you go over to sort of the box office predictions, what it's looking like, this movie is definitely going to bomb. I mean, there's no way around it. There's no other way to call it. The box office numbers, although it's going to unseat Barbie as the #1 movie this weekend, are going to finish around the level that Shazam: Fury of the Gods finished at. And as we know, Shazam 2 was a complete bomb out there in the cinema superhero movie market. So this movie feels like it's already sort of dead on arrival, as they say. I went over here to the community page of my YouTube, sort of asking you guys, the audience here, if you guys were going to see this movie. All I had right here was, are you going to be watching Blue Beetle this weekend? We had 4 different things. 25% of you said can't wait. Mind you, this is a 317 votes here. 25% of you said can't wait. 42% said hell no. 13% said, what is Blue Beetle? And 21% are black-pilled out there. Superhero movies are dead. And this was, really interesting to me. Basically only a quarter of the would-be sort of interested comic book collectors, the people who actually know who the Blue Beetle character is, compared to that of the general audiences. Only 25% of you guys interested in seeing this movie. 75% generally not interested, or maybe it's like, oh, I'll just wait till it's on streaming. I mean, that's kind of how I feel myself. I just don't feel the need to go out to the theater. I think that has a lot to do with the fact that, of course, the James Gunn universe, to me is like, just give me Superman Legacy already. Why are we, have to sit through all these movies? I mean, I understand why we have to sit through these movies, but you know what I mean? It's like, I think there's just so little interest in the holdovers from the Snyder universe, and that includes Aquaman 2, which I assume is also going to bomb later this year. But checking in on the comic book market, this is what I think is super interesting, is that not only is there a lack of interest in this movie, but there's certainly a lack of interest in the comic book. As we go into the sold figures, we can see that, only a handful. I mean, this is a fairly common book, so there's, going to be a lot of sales on any given day. We did see a decent amount of 9/8 sell over the course of the last 4 days or so, but, not necessarily lighting up the lamps. I mean, we have a 90 here at 210. We have a 9/8 down here. That was a slash price of 245. We have a 9/8 here that finished at 204. We had some other 9/8s here that went for 225 and 250 respectively. Decent numbers overall. But if we go to the GPA, we can see that this is a book that while it has sold maybe a slight uptick, in this current month, which I would sort of say like these prices are more like clearance prices. I just got to get it out of my hands. 200, 175, 203, 205, 220, 200, 210, 225, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, this is a far cry from where it was earlier in the year when the market was doing better, where you can see the book selling for 335, 285, 340, 265, 290, 260, 300, etc. So, the comic book market, not necessarily interested in this movie. And I know what you guys are thinking. You guys are thinking to yourselves, well, there's been so many speculations on this book for so long. Like, people have already been buying it. Like, how many more people could possibly be looking to buy this book? And to me, that's one of the issues. That's one of the things that I sort of want to talk about maybe in another video, this idea of the social risk when it comes to the comic collecting market. I spend a lot of time talking about index values and the GPA data and things like that. I think that we could learn a lot about what's going on in the comic book market by analyzing social metrics as well. Even just the analytics on my YouTube channel. How many subscribers am I getting now compared to earlier in the year? What is the view counts like? What are other comic book YouTube channels doing out there? What are their Google Trends thing? And I do want to actually show you guys something that I think is very interesting. But the point I'm getting at with the Infinite Crisis book is that if there are no new interested comic collectors to the book, if there are no people who are excited about the movie, unlike when they saw Into the Spider-Verse, and after Into the Spider-Verse, they got really excited about it, and then actually all the Spider-Punk books went up in value after the movie. And similar to Guardians of the Galaxy, I think actually Rocket Raccoon books actually had a spike. We're not going to see that with the Blue Beetle thing here because there's just not new collectors that are interested in it, and that has, that's sort of a referendum on, the churn that we're feeling in the comic book market right now. And you can even see right here in the Key Collector Comics, this is the trending 20. Not a single book on the trending 20 is even associated to that of Blue Beetle. That is pretty uncommon when we're talking about, a movie release. Even when The Flash came out, which generally speaking bombed, there were still books on this list that were related to the Flash movie. Like even when, Guardians of the Galaxy came out, even when Ant-Man came out, there were still books related to those properties. Now, a little caveat, Batman Vengeance of Bane, I guess this is sort of related to Blue Beetle. The director, I guess, made some comment about how he'd like to do a Bane origin film. So this book went up in value, but I'm not really going to count that as sort of a Blue Beetle related book that is showing up here on the trending list. And again, there's a lot of issues with the Blue Beetle thing right now. We got obviously the actor strike, no press for the movie. Obviously this movie was going to have an uphill battle, and that's going to affect, the interest in the comic books and things like that. But one of the big questions and one of the things I think I wanted to sort of tackle, and again, I want to do this in sort of a bigger video, a more in-depth thing. Let me know if you guys would actually be interested in me doing sort of like a big deep dive in the social metric stuff. I don't necessarily think that comic collectors are going to care all that much about movies not being good or movies going away. In fact, I actually think it might be the opposite. One of the interesting theories I heard is that, if there's less saturation in sort of Hollywood or TV show properties with superhero content, well, it's actually going to have the reverse effect. In order for people to get their superhero fix, they're actually going to have to return to comic books in order to satiate that hunger to get, those characters. So it actually might have a positive effect on the comic book market. And that's something that we saw at San Diego Comic-Con when there was no Hollywood Hall H panels and things like that. A lot of people talked about how there were so many more people on the floor and going to, things like the comic book vintage section and things like that. And so one of the other interesting factors is, I went over to Google Trends and I was interested in, if this comic book or if this comic movie fatigue or superhero fatigue actually sets in, how does that affect comic books, and specifically that of what we're interested here in the secondary market? And I decided to go over this Google Trends thing, and I decided to, hey, let's actually search, just YouTube search, and let's spread it out to the past 12 months of comic books. People interested in searching for comic book related content on YouTube. And you can actually see that going all the way back to August of 2022, we're actually kind of on an uptrend of comic-related search topics on YouTube, which I thought was really, really interesting. So as the movies have gone down, the comic books search term has actually gone up. And you can actually see one of the breakout things, which breakout, if you guys don't know in the Google Trends, breakout means that it's had a tremendous uptick in the search interest. You can actually see it's vintage comic books, over here, golden age of comic books, comic book men, action figures, digital comic books, comic tropes, some other interesting things in here, near mint condition, Comics Explained. So a lot of people going to Comics Explained and channels like that because they want to still get their superhero fix and have it explained via comic book form. Now, one of the other interesting things is if I look at the past 90 days here, and we can see that it's kind of been maybe a slight uptick, but sort of even Steven in these past 90 days. One of the things I do see, if I go down here, you can see selling comic books up 160%, which selling comic books is a very interesting thing to see, that more people in this current sort of bear market are sort of trying to figure out what they need to do with their comic book collection. Maybe they're interested in actually selling it. And then if I go here to the past 30 days, we can see a little bit of a downtick, a little less interest in these last handful of weeks, and superhero comic books seems to be the main search. But that one was really interesting to me, like taking a look at that, how we're actually having the inverse as superhero movie fatigue sets in. We're actually having more interest in comic books, although the interest in comic books, a lot of it is vintage selling comic books, which does mean that, a lot of people are looking to maybe offload some of their comic books now that we're entering this bear market. But very, very interesting of what is going to happen this weekend with Blue Beetle. Once again, it feels like Blue Beetle is going the way of Secret Invasion, where not a lot of people even recognize that this movie is coming out. Feels like this is going to have a real big uphill battle in the movie theaters. And it's too bad, because I think by all accounts, people are enjoying the movie. I mean, it's probably not a masterpiece, it's no Dark Knight, but at the same time, it's probably a harmless, fun superhero movie that really is just going to falter due to the fact that there's been so many superhero misses recently, and a lot of people, once again, just are not interested in the hangovers from the Snyderverse and are really just waiting for Superman Legacy and James Gunn to really officially restart the DC universe. Anyways, that's all I got for this video. What do you guys think about Blue Beetle, and what do you guys think about the comics related to movies right now? Do you guys think that comic book collectors care? Do you think that if movies absolutely bomb and go away, there's going to be no more people interested in comic books? I think that that's something that we're going to have to address more and do a deep dive, perhaps in another video. Are you going to see Blue Beetle this weekend? If you're one of the 25% of people who actually saw this movie, what did you guys think of it? Anyways, that's all I got for this video. Like, comment, subscribe. See you on the next one.